Are you spoken to?
Right.
No, it's his radio voice. He's a 2 a.m. session between midnight and 5.
They're not. He's not.
No, that's exactly right.
Between 3. Morning, councillors and staff. Welcome to our special meeting this morning.
Afternoon.
Afternoon. Oh. Yes. Well done. Do we have any declarations before we begin, councillors? Nothing. Right. No apologies, leave of absence. We'll go on to section 3, corporate services. The procurement panel report, and I'll hand over to Mr. Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll do a brief intro, then I'll hand over to James. We have expert support from officers on board as well, in case the council has any concerns. So the evaluation reports were distributed to all councillors last night in support of recommendations. So the first report looks at the tender for the Point Road Waste Facility, the Eastern Cell construction.
Yep. Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor. Good afternoon, councillors. Okay, so before you, the first report is post-market for resolution for Bonnet Road Waste Facility Eastern Cell construction. You'll see before you the report and the recommendation there is to accept the lump sum tender received from Offaly Civil for Bonnet Road Waste Facility Eastern Cell construction for a total of 3.949369.55 and delegate the Chief Executive Officer to do all things necessary to execute the contract. Any questions?
Any questions, councillors? Councillor Warder.
You said this was distributed to councillors late last night at 5:10, and we're faced with a multi-million-dollar contract. It's just a little concerning that it's a large sum and we've had such short notice. And I'm supposed to read through it and due diligence and checking with all. It's quite sudden and not much time. Is there a reason why it's such a rush and to get this done?
Oh, the reason, well, mainly the construction is. Okay.
So, thank you. So, it is a very relevant question. I've noticed that we've been late on some of the items lately, so it's my commitment to you to make sure we don't do that again. And if it does happen, there'll be a strong reason for it. So, in this case, beyond that, which I think is my responsibility, this is an tender that we'd like to get moving quickly. So, the initial meeting was put together late last week to put this together. We anticipated that we'd have more time for you to read it. We haven't, so I apologise this time. But it is an important tender for both projects. So, yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions? Councillor Stewart.
So the recommendations for Offaly, so they've done work for us before in terms of pipelines, is that right? To lines mainly?
Yes.
And we've never had any issues with them, have we? Or
we haven't had any issues with their performance to date. It is worth bearing in mind that there is significant risk associated with this project as well, with some of the unknowns that we're facing in the cell. But as the driver for us bringing this report back to council is really time is of the essence, and we're running out of airspace at Blank Road.
and so have they done other? So we know they've done sewer lines or whatever. But have they done little civil works to this?
Sorry, what happened?
Might have to refer to them.
Sorry.
Alex, do you want to come up?
So, yeah, through the Mayor and the Chair. Yes, so we're pretty confident as a team that Offaly were capable of undertaking the works and that they've undertaken similar projects that could achieve what they're proposing to do. This will be, I wouldn't say it's a new project, well, it is a new project for them, but they've definitely, the engineers on the assessment panel felt that they were acceptable in the work that they proposed.
Councillor Polly?
Just, you mentioned significant risk if we proceed, as we proceed, or risk if we don't proceed?
It's probably risk both ways.
Right.
If we don't proceed, we're running out of airspace, so
Yep,
that
get that one.
will force us into another alternative strategy around our waste management.
Yep.
The risk that we have at the moment is that, sorry, I'll just read it out. We're building alongside the existing uncapped cell, and we've made some design assumptions in the formation of the tender. So whether those assumptions come into play or not, that presents another element of risk.
Right, so it could be a case of they start to build it and realise what they quoted on may not be what.
Well, that's right, and that will come back to council as a variation to the contract.
Yeah, might. Right. Okay, I suppose the question then would be, because the problem is you get 2 million into it, suddenly there's massive things like you're so far in, you have to throw more money at it. But like, what are some of the contingency plans that, at worst case scenario, might come up and suddenly it's 10% or 20% or 50% of the value of?
Typically we would allow somewhere between 5 and 10%.
Yeah, that's pretty standard. Yeah.
There is significant more risk with this project, but we still want to proceed with that 5 to 10% and then bring any variations back to council above that threshold.
So, Mr. Burns looks like he's here to answer a question.
No, I was that's for you, Mr. Mayor.
I realise that, yeah.
Risk if we don't proceed with running out of airspace and the lack of planning that has been in this waste space for a number of years, and there is, as Mr. Lewis has pointed out, there is risk if we do proceed around, where it is being at Bonnick Road and the other issues that are highlighted. So it's a case of 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, I guess.
Well, I take it from what you're saying is that the risk of it costing more down the track is less than the risk faced if we don't proceed. So I think we'll understand we can't not proceed.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that's actually why I came down here.
Yeah.
We've done approximately 70, the design is a 70-30 design model. So we've done the design to a 70% satisfaction rating in the sense that we're confident that 70%. It's going into an existing drainage basin. The real risk of the construction would be if there were any anomalies in that drainage basin that were latent defects, ground defects that we wouldn't understand or don't know before we get into it. In essence, that's an acceptable risk in our evaluation panel model on the basis that the risk of not having this eastern cell in the time frame that we're talking about is a much greater position for us. We're talking a contingency model where we have, as Mr. Lewis said, some percentage contingency identified. But if we have to truck waste, which we will have to do if we don't build this cell, we're talking $4 million straight up off the bat in the first half of next year. So give or take, the risk of going ahead with this design and the time frame of completing this design and construction work as soon as possible is less than the risk of not doing it.
Okay.
And that's where the panel came to.
Yeah. So one final question. So just for the sake of those listening in, we go ahead and we do it. What's the new sunset horizon or the insurance? We are okay for how many more years to come by spending this $4 million now? We're good with the space we got for how long? Okay, are you back in 5 years saying, oh, we need another cell?
About 48 months.
It's only going to give us 48 months.
It's not a long-term solution. So I think that's the unfortunate situation of where we're at. With some of the ideas that we're proposing to make some adjustments at Bonnick Road with the recycling alley and a few other initiatives, we're hoping to divert material from going into the landfill, and so we do have some changes coming once the cell is built and commissioned.
Yep.
I just wanted to add back through with your other question, if you're okay.
Yep.
Going back, one of the benefits of this particular company that the panel could see was that there was they're much more local, they're locally based, so there was a cost saving because of that nature of that, and they've also proposed their timeline and program involved working together and collaboratively, and they had a number of options in there for us that the panel felt was giving us some reduction of risk because we would be able to control and reuse a number of materials that are on site. So we felt as a panel that there was, I think that collaboration base and their fact that they were offering to help work collaboratively on some things will help reduce and manage the risks that potentially could be there.
Thanks, Ray. I mean, for me, the 5 mil, the 4 mil, whatever, it's whatever, we need to do it. I suppose my question is more about what does this community get for spending 4 million? And you're saying 4 years, but I think if I understood Mr. Burns correctly, if we don't do it, it's going to cost us 4 million
In 1 year.
Yeah.
At least.
So we'll be up for 4 million every year,
Yes.
and this will give us 4 years and $1 million a year, basically.
And through you, Mr Mayor, this council's expressly advised us that they don't want to truck waste. I know we have the MOUs in place and we've had that discussion and we've resolved that at council recently. But it is our intention not to truck waste because of the volume and quantification of that. That's current day price. If we're doing some work on true cost analysis of our waste fees.
Yep.
If the other councils did that and decided to put their fees up significantly, that 4 million could go up. We don't know that.
Yep.
Inflation could go up. It could go further. That 4 years is cost effective in the scheme of things. It might sound a lot of money, but at this point in time, it's cost effective, and it will also give us the time to consider and put before council. And we're already working on a report to come to council in the very, very near future, maybe even next month. Around the identification of a future long-term waste site. So we're anticipating that it'll give us that 4 years, but during that 4 years we'll have time to come up with some solutions as to where we're going to be with long-term waste solutions.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Deborah.
Thank you, through the Mayor. Just thank you, first of all, for those answers, because that's excellent, really promising news. I just have a question in regards to the difference in the price that they came with the quotes. Now, you've already answered in part because, what they're prepared to do, the fact that they're closer, which obviously would have made a difference. I've seen in other items that have come to us that there's been something about, if it's so much below, one's quote so much below the others, that there can be a reasoning for that, but I didn't see anything in here about that. I'm just wondering if we're talking about it might go over by a certain amount, depending on what's there. Did the others allow for that? Is that why theirs were higher? Bob says no.
Not allowed to.
Yeah, sorry, so through the chair, thank you. Good questions. Look, there was a number of different factors that were driving the prices, and a part of it was a number of things that affected the score was the timeline delivery, which of course were time critical. So there was a few things that made the scoring, I think, from a panel perspective, definitive. With the detail, this is the first time I've seen the final paper, so there was some detail previous. So to your question about the movement of under and over and things like that, the Offaly Civil to us came in the closest to our original scoped quote and our scoped prices. So I guess from that point of view, it's on point. As far as contingency, I think it is standard practice to put a minimum of 10% potentially on any job, and this may have some changes in that space. As a team, we've already procured some of the geosynthetic liner, and that's already on site. We've also established that we have the right clay and a quantity of clay sitting in one of our quarries from council. So we're actually, I guess, a little bit different to normal. We've already scoped the materials and the costs for those. So they're normally variables within the contract that they can add prices to. So they're, the prices probably, for us, it was for the tenderers that are not local, there was probably some scope difference in that space. So they obviously factored in some stuff that we'd already sort of specifically said they didn't need to. So there was variation in that space. So I hope that kind of answers your question a bit, but that was sort of the main things that drove around that price. Was there anything I've missed that you wanted?
Through you, Mr Mayor, if I may add, the original cost estimate for this project was 4.3 million.
Right.
Even if we nominally accepted 10% variation of contingency, the 3.9 to the low fives is within that 10%, 10-15% in terms of the price variations. around that 4.3. So this was within scope in that sense. It was slightly under, which is unusual in today's market, but we had elevated our price because of today's market and some of the prices we've got. So our cost estimate was 4.3. Coming in at the price it has, it's within the band, if you like.
Thank you.
Any other questions, councillors? We have a recommendation there before us. Is there someone to move? Councillor Devereux, Councillor Wardock to second. Councillor Devereux to speak.
Alex, every time you open your mouth, I feel more and more confident that we're heading in the right direction. So thank you very much. Thank you, Adrian. Mr. Burns, thank you.
Councillor Wardock.
Yeah, this as an overview, we're looking at $4 million here to extend the life for 4 years. The other options are to truck it, $4 million per year, 16 million at least. Are we talking?
Yeah, easily.
Easily, at least $4 million a year. Yeah, it's a no-brainer.
Two speakers for the recommendation. Any speakers against? Any other speakers for? Councillor Devereux to close.
Nothing more to add. I think
With that,
go
we
ahead.
go to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you.
Through Mr Mayor. Oops, sorry, just jumping ahead.
Item 3.2.
It's through Mr Mayor. This report seeks council's decision in relation to a tender that was put out to market for the DFRA Events Project Management. The concept was, has previously been workshopped with councillors. There were 3 respondents to the tender. I'll let James go through the technical aspects of the process, and Mr O'Byrne is here to address some technical aspects of the tender itself.
Okay, yes, so before you as described, I need to highlight that in the actual recommendation report and not contained in the contents of the council report was an identified probity issue, which is item 2.4.4 of the recommendation report. And just to draw your attention, I'll actually read it verbatim. A probity issue occurred whereby one of the respondents contacted one of the evaluation panel via telephone to arrange a meeting to discuss their proposal. The respondent was informed that this is inappropriate and ceased the phone call. This is contrary to the rules of the tender, where no communication with council is allowed during the tender process, other than through the procurement team, who are not part of the evaluation process. Before you is a recommendation, which is to accept the schedule of rates tender received from AECOM, Australia Y Limited, for this tender DRFA Engineering and Project Management Services for 4.4 million exclusive of GST, and to delegate to the Chief Executive Officer to do all things necessary to execute the contract.
Is there any questions, councillors? Councillor Smith.
What's the length of this contract? So through yourself, Mr Mayor, look, 2 to 3 years. At this stage, it's really tied up with just the finalisation of the RFA work. At this stage, 2025, that we're anticipating there'll be, some closeout aspects as well. So. I was just wondering, we had a quote from Shepherds. They've been involved with us doing road reports and everything. They would have known that area pretty well, and I just thought, their pricing, they would have come a little bit closer, but anyway. Yeah. Look, through yourself, Mr Mayor, just a bit of a summary. So as James indicated, this is actually for the engineering services in a total sense, not just project management. So there's a range of engineering services we're going to call on, a range of disciplines, including structural, hydraulic, and then civil. So what we were looking for was a consultant that could actually deliver all of that. Indeed, both consultants other than AECOM joined forces and joined hands with other sub-consultants to deliver those services. So that's one aspect, one point of difference, if you like.
Specifically answering your question, Councillor Smoto, yeah, look, Shepherd Services have been working with us and we're very happy with the services they've provided. The main aspect of Shepherd Services submission, which did not rate as highly as AECOM's, was in relation to methodology. Very much a data-focused submission rather than actually a project management delivery. And indeed, Shepherd Services have delivered projects with project management, but not as extensively as AECOM. So that's the point of difference as well in that regard.
Any other questions, councillors? Councillor Devereux?
I really don't understand a lot of this, I'll be quite honest. When I first looked at it, I thought, oh my God, they're asking to spend $4 million on events management for the region. Where's the word events in there?
It's a weather event.
Weather event, is that what? Okay. Events project management. I thought, oh my, makes no sense. So these are going to overlook the work that's being done. Is that?
So, Councillor, through yourself, Mr. Mayor. So, progressively over the last couple of workshops we've had as well, in relation to our overall CapEx program, we've talked about delivering circa $110 million for this coming financial year. A significant portion of that is related to the DRFA works. So this is actually to enable us to deliver that from a capability and a capacity point of view. We haven't got the capacity in-house to deliver that extent of the program. So this is actually to supplement our own capability and capacity.
I did think that when we got the contractors that would be part of what they contracted for. So that's where I'm confused.
Oh, okay.
It's just not understanding the process.
Yeah, sure. So through yourself, Mr. Mayor, so there's two aspects of delivering a project. One is the consultancy. Then the other is the build, if you like, or the construction, the delivery on the ground of the works. So this is the consultancy. So a consultant, I'm a firm believer you should always treat a consultant as your partner, if you like, in delivering the work. So this is actually assisting us to actually administer the works that the contractor is actually going to deliver on the ground for us. So that project management, the inspection, the liaison with QRA, closing off all those aspects as well.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Councillor Colbert?
So I'm just trying to understand too, if I remember, even though it's $4 million, whatever it is, this is built into the funding we're getting from the government. So it's not ratepayers' money that we're actually spending at the moment. We're just looking for good value for a dollar.
That's right, Councillor. Yeah. So, and I think two key points in that is $4.4 million, it's not a fixed lump sum contract. This is purely a schedule of rates. So the $4.4 million is simply an estimate that the consultants put on that they believe how many hours they'll need in order to deliver the project. The scope of the project will go like this. We'll go to site, we'll do a final inspection of the roadworks that need restoration. And we could find that over the last 12 to 18 months, the road's deteriorated a bit more. So the scope will change slightly. So that $4.4 million is not a locked-in sum. It's a schedule rates-based contract. The basis of repayment or reimbursement, if you like, by QRA or the government is essentially 100% of the compliant-based works that we undertake. So we'll go out and do a repair on a road. We might decide to actually do some additional works ourselves to enhance that asset, but the basic restoration works is 100% covered, which includes the engineering work that we're talking about. So no out-of-pocket cost from the council perspective.
If I could ask one final question, referring James's 2.4, is that relevant to, you brought it up, is that relevant to our decision making? Was that person excluded from this, or they're one of these three?
No, Councillor, the probity issue was deemed not to be significant.
Yeah.
It was a probity issue we thought needed noting and putting on record, and that's the comment from Mr. Harrod. But that particular consultant wasn't eliminated from the evaluation.
Any other questions, councillors? Recommendation there before us. In two parts, is there someone to move? Councillor Fredman, Councillor Devereux to second. Councillor Fredman to speak.
It's very important we get going on these road repairs. This is another key step in getting going. It's As a matter of interest, we as councillors are limited in how we can assess tenders because it's basically an operational process to analyse the tenders and come up with a recommendation. I raised this matter once before, that we can, however, have an opinion on the evaluation criteria. And basically, in this particular case, I would have had price at a higher percentage, but it wouldn't have changed the recommendation. So in terms of the recommendation, AECOM is recommended as being the best tender, and I accept that. The reality is it's an overseas company, and Cormac Road Civil is a local company. However, no amount of manipulation of the evaluation criteria would change the fact that the Cormac Road tender, as much as we would like it because it's local, is 1.5 million more than AECOM. And there is a point at which we accept that if AECOM's got the right engineers, that they will do the job. I assume that we're going to have a team on our staff who manage the AECOM contract to make sure we get value out of them, and their job is to manage the construction contract to get value for us out of them too. So there's 3 tiers in all these contracts, and I support the staff recommendation after I've had a look at the variables that we as councillors can have an opinion on, and AECOM's the winner. I recommend it.
Councillor Devereux.
The most important thing in this document for me was the 100% reimbursable, which means that ratepayers can rest easy. We're getting things done and they're not going to be out of pocket, so I'm really happy with that. I'll take your recommendation. I recommend everyone else does too.
2 speakers for the recommendation. Any speakers against? Any other speakers for? I'd just like to add, it's great to see this moving along. I know Mr O'Byrne, your team has suffered under the bureaucratic process that QRA dictates to council. I know they're making efforts to streamline that will benefit councils around the state in the future. But it's great that we've got this in place now and hopefully move things forward with more contracts rolling out for works to be done over the coming months. So congratulations to the team and well done. I know they've really struggled under the burden of paperwork that's been required, and that has held up our ability to go out and repair the roads outside of spending ratepayer funds. So we're well aware of the difficulties they face and the great work they've done, and it's glad to see this one presented to council. Any other speakers for or against councillors? Councillor Stewart.
Mr Mayor, I just note that over the years we've struggled to project manage the $30-odd million a year of capital works we do, so there's no way we could project manage $110 million worth, or whatever it's going to be. So, yeah, I fully support that we go to external project managers to help with the flood recovery works.
Any other speakers for or against? Councillor Fredden to close.
Mr Mayor, this is so important for our constituents. We've done the tender for the works, now we're doing the tender for the supervision of the works. The way I understand it, there's no more tenders to be called. This is it. This is, let's go, GO.
With that, we'll go to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you, staff and councillors, for your attendance today. That concludes